This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion meeting for November 21st, 2024 at 6:30. Calling this meeting to order with a land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Shelburne resides within the traditional territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Chippewa, and the people of the Three Fires Confederacy. These traditional territories upon which we live, work, play, and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous histories and traditions. And it's with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and its resources. Number two, the recommendation is to, we need a mover and seconder to adopt the agenda for this evening. Can we get a mover and seconder for that? Shane will move. Seconder, and Francis will second. And all in favor? Okay, carried. Hey, Mandeep, how are you? Okay, declaration of pecuniary interest. Just a reminder, everyone, that if you have any interests, please declare them now or at any point in time during the course of the meeting. Number 4 is a adoption of our minutes from the last meeting held on October 17th, 2024. We again need a mover and seconder. Walter will move, and who will second? Okay, Francis again, sorry. Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. All right, this brings us to the body of our agenda today, 5.1, which is an update from the staff on the Black History Month preparations for February 2025. And I'm not quite sure, is that a Denise thing, or is that is a Denise thing? So yeah. Denise, I'm going to turn this part of the meeting over to you.
Thanks, Chair Guichardi. So we have been having updates with the Dufferin County Black Association, and their plans are currently under review. What they're hoping to create is a wider collaboration for 2025, which would include potentially the City of Orangeville's they're called, I think, EDI. So what they're actually considering, and would just like the formal endorsement of the committee that this plan, if it comes to be, is something that you feel is worthwhile, is looking at potentially holding it in the Orangeville Theater. And the date that they're looking at, because there are bookings for the month of February, is Saturday, March the 1st. So that's only tentative. And if it was to be a collaboration, then all of the committees that are participants in this year would be recognized formally and asked to bring greetings. The alternative, if that doesn't work, is certainly they would reconsider or plan to go back to Grace Tippling Hall. And I think they're looking at a Sunday this year, and I think it's Sunday, February 23rd. So we'll have more of an update when we get more of an update, but that's really it for now. If the committee can just discuss what your feelings and opinions are about a potential support for an event that's being held in Orangeville, that can be shared back with Alethea.
Okay. So how is everyone feeling about having this a joint celebration this year, partnering with, I guess, is it going to be all of the other municipalities, or specifically just Orangeville?
I believe it's Orangeville, and again, of course, partnering with the Museum of Dufferin, who's always been a major partner in every event that's been held to date at Grace Tippling Hall. I can certainly clarify if other municipalities are being approached, but I'd have to get that clarified.
Okay, thank you. So thoughts, Shane?
Yeah, my only concern would be, how do we make certain that the residents of Shelburne have an opportunity and access to their, I'm not saying that we necessarily have to look at a bus service necessarily, but how do we ensure that, our residents are prioritized based on, what we're putting into it or how we're putting into it?
So thanks for that question. That was actually something that staff raised with the organizers, just to say that transportation could become an issue and distance, and we would have to consider whether ride sharing or some kind of formal ability to get people there if they didn't have a car would have to be coordinated. So yes, it was an issue that was raised, and it's a legitimate one.
Okay. Yeah, good point. Is the possibility of doing it as a Zoom as well for people who can't make it? Just something to throw out there. Maybe that's a conversation we have with Alethea.
Sorry, could
Anybody
I?
else?
Yeah, if it's just like what Shane had said, I agree. Black History Month or these celebrations or recognition time should be, in the community, for the community. And so once you're taking it out of the community, it's a different. You're changing the dynamics of it. And so I mean, I don't know how that would be done. I would prefer to see it stay in Shelburne and grow in Shelburne, because this is where the community is. To ask the community now to get a ride or whatever means of getting over to Orangeville, I just don't think that's appropriate for the occasion of a Black History Month celebration. And I think you were alluding to Zoom. I think it should be in person. Yes, you can have the Zoom link as well if for persons who can't come, but I really think it's something that should be an in-person event.
Okay, thanks, Dulis. Anyone else? If transportation's an issue, I mean, I'm not sure if we can approach one of the bus companies or to be able to maybe arrange a bus that goes down and comes back. I'm not sure how that would necessarily work. I mean, I've got an idea of what a bus costs to charter it for an event like that for a couple of hours, but thoughts? Yeah, Shane?
I wonder even if if they can provide some form of even agenda, because in the past we have tried. I don't know if it's always been successful, but we also have, uh, the plaque that's actually located in the park in Fiddle Park.
Mm-hmm.
So you lose that opportunity for recognition as well. Again, I just feel that, as Duluth said, the event, if you lose the event for the town, then what? We started it here, and then you're just going to lose it to the bigger center. Maybe the bigger center needs to do their own standalone event. And since it's the month, we've got enough weekends within the month that, it's certain that it should be able to be coordinated in some fashion, that it's, not on the same day.
Okay. I mean, we can certainly ask if Alethea wants to run 2 events. I'm not necessarily sure if that's that we'd have to have a conversation with her in order to make sure that works. And if it's willing, yeah, Denise.
So I know that the event, I think, is in the range of about $15,000, and the contribution from the DEI is, I think, around 3. So if you can just provide some more, because it's not that far away. So based on your input, or at least what I'm hearing, is that you would prefer that an event be held in Shelburne for Shelburne. And I guess the alternative, if it's not this event, because that organization is the event that the organization we partner with is actually based in Orangeville. I believe that's where they're based. So the alternative would be to look at our own event, organized and delivered by us for a budget that you would set. But I'll certainly follow up with Alethea tomorrow. This is streamed, so she can watch this conversation and then provide an email update to the committee next week.
Again, if I might, Len, even to clarify, you know, maybe as I mentioned earlier with regards to an agenda for the day, maybe there's an opportunity that there's a portion that is celebrated within the town, and then there's a portion that, you know, moves over. But at least something to, you know, for the residents in the town, and if the, you know, the final act, so to speak, is in Orangeville, then, you know, maybe.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's a good point. All good points. Anyone else? Denise?
And you and I had talked about, after attending the Big Ideas Small Town session at the Museum of Dufferin a little while ago, that one of the partners with that organization potentially would be able to help us bring a speaker or an author to Grace Tippling Hall. And we had said there's a number of different celebrations or recognitions, including Black History Month. So we could put that potentially as part of what Alethea might want to consider, is to the points that if there was a number of venues that were part of the celebration and the recognition, and as long as Shelburne had something, then there could be the main event.
Okay.
Is that a correct interpretation of what you are saying? Okay. So we can look at that as well. Then we would just have to look at a budget or whatever it would take for us to expand what we might hold in Shelburne as well.
Okay. I had conversations today with Neil Orford, who is part of that, who heads up that organization, and he would love to have. He's in agreement that this would be something that would be good to bring a speaker in for, and he immediately mentioned Kevin Jr. As the Armed Forces. I believe he spoke at last year's. He was the keynote speaker at last year's event, and to have that as part of a bigger portion of the event, then that would be his choice for a speaker again, and he's willing to work with us on that in order to try and facilitate that. Again, he had deferred that to Alethea because she is the contact with Kevin. So we'll have to follow up on that with Alethea as well. Okay. Anybody else before we move on? Thoughts? No? Okay.
Len, I just have a question for clarification. Sure. So if we're going to expand the program, is the committee, I guess, accepting or approving? I shouldn't say approving. Would they consider that if we had to increase the budget to support a supplemental event or a component of an event that would be part of the bigger event, is that something that you're okay with? And then say, for example, if we needed to fund a speaker for another $1,500, so we would bring that back to you in December, but just to let you know, not everything, it won't be without some cost for us to do something as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. That was another point that Neil had, because one of the questions I had for Neil was costs, and he said again that's a question for Alethea to have a conversation with. Let's just get some feedback from everybody. Are we comfortable with spending more of our budget to support an additional speaker or to enhance the stuff? Yeah, Mandeep? Yeah, go ahead. You're muted, dear. Thanks.
No, I think it's a good idea to, if we can, spend that money additional speaker to promote it in Shelburne.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Thanks,
can
Mandeep.
I say, Len? Can I? I'm not sure if you or Denise have any sort of numbers or figures, who you think, what numbers you think would be traveling or would be interested in traveling from Shelburne to Orangeville for this event? Because if it's if it's just like the committee is going to be going, then is it worth it? I'm not sure. Do you
No,
know of others that would be interested in going to the Orangeville event? And
well, we're talking of doing part of the event here in Shelburne, and then we could give that as an option for people to come to the Orangeville event as a supplement to what we run in Shelburne. I'm not sure if it's a 12 or 15 passenger bus we get, or if we get a big school bus. We'd have to maybe have people register or somehow get some sort of interest into what what the interest is. Yeah, Denise, sorry.
So because last year's event, even though there was a no cost ticket, it still was administered through Eventbrite. We can ask Alethea because my understanding is that many people that attended from many parts of the community. So there were people that came from Brampton as well as Mississauga and Orangeville. So if we could maybe we'll ask for that information, just because I would expect that whatever event is held this year, irrespective of the location, and even if like say Shelburne, I think a lot of people travel because it's such an important opportunity for them to be part of.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
some of the people that were the headliners, and I have to apologize, the famous Juno Award-winning musician
Liberty Silver.
Liberty Silver, she has a following, and many people, I believe, came from Toronto to see her as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, and yeah, it's a busy month. Even though it's a full month, it's a very busy month, and so people will have different activities. I couldn't even come to Shelburne's event last year because I had a prior engagement, and so the reason why I was asking if you know the numbers, then it would make sense if you have a number, then you would know if it's worth it to be financing both events. That's the reason for my ask.
Well, I think we would have to commit at some point in time to whether financing both events or just holding our own event. I mean, there comes a point in time where we have to, pick a direction. So I'm just, maybe that's a thing we can have a conversation with Alethea about in terms of setting up invitation through Eventbrite and ticketing through Eventbrite earlier. And that way we could get, maybe by January, first week of January, we can nail down the numbers of people who are interested in jumping on this bus to go down to Orangeville, and then we can make the decision then as to whether they travel on their own or they grab a bus. Yes, Deputy Mayor Hall.
We like I think this year's event, we're probably going to be in a position where you've got to support probably both. Like I would certainly support both. If the ultimate goal is to move it to Orangeville as a longer term item, then I think this is probably something that we should be putting towards the county as far as, looking at the longer term funding and such. Because if our $3,000, doesn't, meet the need,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to get it from a bigger source, then, the taxpayers in Shelburne paying for an event that's being taken place in Orangeville, maybe that's something that really should be looked at from a county perspective.
Right. I believe this is this is a 1 year. I think it's the 5th year.
It is.
So I think the intent is for the fall. So for 2026, I believe the intent is to just run it back in Shelburne and out at Dufferin, at Museum at Dufferin, as in past years.
So we would be able to get an actual commitment from them that this is a 1 year only, and we're not going to face the same thing next year where oh, they've got a bigger venue, it was successful, so we're just going to move it there. That's I guess what my point is trying to make certain that, if this is a Shelburne event, then it's
Mhm.
Shelburne. If it's Shelburne supported in Orangeville for a longer, in the longer term, then we should be moving this off to the county.
Yeah. No, I believe it was just from the conversations we had. This was a one-time only because it's the 5th year. But I'm
sorry. My understanding it's because of the milestone of 5 years, and to have a larger venue for that in particular, because I think that the significance of that year has created the need for a larger venue. But again, we'll carry back all of your comments and I'll summarize them tomorrow to send an email, and then hopefully have a call with Alethea and see where and again, she said it is simply right at this point a consideration. If it's March 1st, it's not even in the month. So, and if that doesn't work, then obviously the original plan was to have it in Shelburne because the DEI committee was endorsing it and supporting it through the budget.
Okay. So just to summarize, I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth, but I believe I'm hearing we're comfortable with possibly increasing the amount of money to help support this in Orangeville if it happens in Orangeville, and also supporting the event in Shelburne. So that would give our budget, we'd have to release more of budget for both events. Is that what can I just get a show of hands if that's what we're comfortable with, or a nod, or anything, people? I feel like the teacher from Ferris Bueller's Day Off here. Bueller, yeah, okay, we're all good. All right, okay, let's move on to 5.2, which is exploring the DEI education and farm opportunities, possible opportunities for topics for 2025. And I'm just going to open that up to the floor. The people that have any desires for topics to discuss for educational forums, and then we can possibly track and match some speakers or to those subjects. And I'll just open up the floor to whoever.
No, I think this one,
Francis, yeah.
It was an issue of what do we want to celebrate in a year? What events do we want to celebrate? And I think someone was supposed to come up with a list, then we can consider which events can we celebrate. But there are other events other than Black History Month or other communities that are represented in Shelburne. Like we just passed Diwali, we didn't do anything. There's Eid coming. All those events, they equally need to be celebrated. So we're supposed to have a list of what events do we want to celebrate in a year in Shelburne.
Okay, so you mentioned Diwali and Eid. Are there other events that we want to highlight first of all, and then we can possibly pair up, line up a speaker or an event with that? Anyone else that we think of? I mean, I know the town does, we do our acknowledgements of different celebrations as a town thing. So I know there's a list there. Stella, you wanted to add one or two or three?
Yeah, I think maybe I didn't understand the question very well. Is it DEI Education Forum or is it events? I didn't get that portion very well.
Well, I think the forum opportunities that we're going to look at are in-house. Is that what we're looking at, or are we looking at as more of a community? I think, Denise, can we get some clarification there?
This was based on the potential from the sessions that were held by Dufferin County in Mono. And there were 2 back-to-back Thursdays, and those were presented by their DEI committee or in collaboration with. So they called them community conversations. So the suggestion was just to discuss whether or not, if that format was seen to be beneficial, was there something that the DEI committee, similar to that format, where you would have a presentation in Grace Tippling Hall and a speaker or a book launch, and we could do 3 a year and in 2020. So this is really what that was based on. It wasn't about running events.
Okay.
It was about conversations where the community comes and attends, as some of you did at Menorah Park. It was just a suggestion, so that it would be incorporated into your work plan if that was something the committee wished to do.
Okay, thanks, Denise. So these would be open to the public, but they would be more in just, so maybe a general information session on what Diwali is or what Eid is, or I mean, there's go ahead.
Yes, sorry, Glenn. The same question that Stella asked, I was going to ask it because I was kind of confused there. So thanks for the clarification, Denise. One thing I would like us to have is a discussion on confronting anti-Black racism.
Okay, we'll write that down. Anyone else?
There was a lot of kickback in Facebook on the Muslim community trying to raise funds for a Muslim center. We maybe need to do some education on that, because there was a lot of racist comments that were put on Facebook in regards to that particular situation. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding to the Muslim community.
Yeah, no, I agree, but it's Facebook, and you have to consider where it comes from, right?
I do consider that, but there's a lot of kickback in the community off of Facebook, so I think that might be a good.
Okay. Muslim.
I don't know, the other things, how can we support local businesses? Because like what I see, I've been here for 3 years. One of the things I cannot do is to have my car serviced in Shelburne. Well, by the time I come home, they'll be closed. And I want to support local, but I have no way. So I don't know whether there could be a forum with local businesses so that citizens can discuss how we can support them, especially the small businesses.
Okay. That might be something for our BIA to look at. Thank you. That's a good one.
So can I just clarify, Francis? You would like to have businesses that provide car service?
Local businesses and citizens, we can discuss maybe I don't want to call it like a small business fair, so that we can understand more about some of the services. Like, for example, I want to be able to have my doctor in Shelburne, but I can't. By the time I get home, they are closed. They don't open weekends. So how can I have a family doctor or a dentist in Shelburne?
Okay.
So we want to discuss those with the small business so that we can find a way to support them more. Based on that, most people drive long distances to go to Brampton or Toronto for business.
And I'm going to apologize. It might be just me, but I am having a very difficult time hearing you. So I think what I'll do is I'll share with this group or with you, Francis, all the work that the Economic Development Committee does, as well as our economic development staff. We've just released a series of Support the Burn, which features, I think in this last video, 13 local businesses. And there really is a high profiling of those local businesses in our community. That's not going to address some of the challenges that you're facing in terms of their hours of operation. But I can tell you there are dentists that in our community that are open evenings, not every night, but they're open late. They're open till 8. And some of them actually have Saturday hours as well. So if that is something you need, I'm certainly happy to share with you through our
Yeah,
business
that's what I
team who
need.
those are if you need a new dentist. But so let me share that information with you.
Okay.
And not to engage, but one of the ideas that staff had, and again, if this is something that the committee thinks has any benefit, is that you yourselves would serve as the panel members and share your experiences as and why you're serving in your capacity, and that the community then can engage with each of you, and then potentially other people might be involved in the future. So it's just something to keep in mind because you're such a diversified group and you bring a wealth of experience that maybe others would love to hear from. And some of the celebrations and issues that you've raised are maybe those that you can also speak to. So it's just a thought. So it'd be actually a session where, meet your DEI committee and you'll get a chance to actually have a conversation and hear from each member.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. In addition, just to piggyback on what Denise had said, last month, I believe, DCCBA had a forum of, I know Stella, you were there, a forum of 3 keynote speakers. No, I believe it was 2 keynote speakers who had small businesses in town, and it was a good question and answer forum there. So that's something.
It was at Grace Tippling Hall.
Yeah.
Economic Development actually partnered with that event.
Okay. Yeah. Estella, yes, you had your hand. I knew you had your hand up. Yes.
Yes. My suggestion would be for us to find a way of empowering our youth, whether it's being innovation or entrepreneurship, where the youth in our communities can have, they wouldn't wait to be employed. Well, if employment comes, we can't all be waiting to be employed. So if we could have a fund set aside for the youth, we encourage them to come up with something like innovation, entrepreneurship, just to help them get into the business or like self-employed market. That's my suggestion.
Okay. Again, that's kind of skirting with the EDI. But yeah, it's something we can maybe have a conversation with them about like in partnership with EDI and DEI to see if we can get maybe job fairs, that kind of stuff happening. Anyone else?
Sorry.
Yeah, Mandeep. Yeah, no, you look like you're. Yeah, the reason I said anything else, you look like you were going to.
Yeah, no, I've lost my voice, so I'm in and out. But I know Denise was saying something about an information session. So can committee members do that presentation? Like one of us, if we wanted to do a presentation on why Sikh celebrate Diwali, like at the information session?
Yeah, that was what I suggested would be ideal.
Yeah.
If you had a session or sessions where like one is meet your DEI committee, or if there are sessions that each of you to collect together or some of you could lead, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
And then we just come up with the themes and we invite the community to learn more about whatever topic you'll be speaking on is.
And would we have the funds available to attract people, like, for example, food or something, like, because that attracts people, right? Like, especially if it's like a dinner time or a lunch time or something like that.
You certainly can look at it. I just need to remind, I know it's difficult. There's significant limitations in town hall for the capacity. So really you're limited to the lobby area outside Grace Tippling Hall for that. And we currently don't allow food only because it would wreck the chairs because they're like a velvety. So if you look at the space, we've had past organizations that have had maybe 3 tables set up. So it's not like a sit down, it's more like an appetizer type of nibbling. Certainly you can do that.
That's fair.
Okay. Or even a food, if it's in the summertime, maybe a food truck out front.
Yeah, if it's in the summer, you could do something in the park beforehand, and then travel over to Grace Tippling Hall as well, if that's something you wanted to do as well. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I shouldn't think it's not just limited to winter. Sorry.
Can we do it at the schools? One of the schools?
I'm sorry, Francis?
Yes, we
Can
can
we use
hear
one
you.
of the schools as a venue?
Can we use one of the schools as a venue? We'd have to approach the Board of Education and get permission to do that, and there probably would be a substantial rental fee, knowing what the rentals are for schools in Shelburne. So, I mean, we do have Grace Tippling Hall as a facility that we could be able to be comped, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
So I'll just clarify. If Grace Tippling Hall is used, yes, there's no cost because it's
Okay.
us. The other venue that potentially might work, and again, there's just their board or their executive needs to be reinstated, is the Legion has fairly reasonable rental costs.
Mhm.
So does Mel Lloyd Center, Dufferin Oaks. There's certain rooms that are reasonable and they're quite nice. And then alternatively, there's also the CDRC upstairs in the new I'm getting up my places mixed up. The Harvest Room, I think. So, anyways, it starts with an H. So there's all of those other venues in the community. It's limited, but there are some, and they're not as difficult to schedule as say the schools, particularly if class is in or sports are on.
Right.
Yeah, because what I'm saying, I agree with them. If you don't put food, you're not going to attract people. They won't come. So if we get a venue, we must make sure we can provide some food for people so that they can attend. Otherwise, they won't.
Okay.
That's of my experience.
Okay. Thanks, Francis. Okay. Anyone else?
And if I could just add, it's not really necessarily food, but finger food type of thing.
Yeah.
Something that they can nibble on. Yeah, it's not like a meal, but
No.
it's somewhat that they can just, while you're listening, you can be just sort of getting a little. And
Yeah, the last.
And especially if you're talking about various cultures and the reason why you're celebrating whatever it is, it'd be nice to have that culture's food then at that time.
Right. I know with the event that DCCBA ran last month, they had it was all just finger food and canapes, and I think it was Soul Life came by and catered that event, or at least the chef from Soul Life was there catering that. So yeah, it would be great to have something like that. Any other thoughts? Okay,
Yeah,
The
Canada Day event was a great event that was put up and organized. I loved it. Maybe there too, like more of us can kind of come out to support all the various communities in the area because it is Canada. We're all together. Maybe spending more money there too. I think last time Francis and I worked that afternoon there, and we were just kind of talking about maybe getting more money to spend there and kind of attracting more people to us, and sharing more information and stuff like that. And yeah.
Okay, I know they have their budget, and I know this Canada Day is going to be a little different than those in past, and that's a Canada Day committee thing that we can maybe partner with them on. I'm on that one as well, so I'll make that a note for topic of discussion as well. Okay.
And
All
one
right.
more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry, Chris.
I'm just thinking aloud here.
That's okay.
Yeah, we could just have some like equity kind of scholarships for deserving racialized students at our schools, especially grade 12, giving something like $300-400 for someone going to university as someone who has displayed inclusion and diversity in the school. We could have a prize open to our secondary school students, or one elementary, one secondary, just a small token of appreciation,
I
even a gift card.
Denise, I believe they do that already. I'm not sure if that comes
Oh,
from
we
the
do that
town
already.
or
Yeah, we wanted something from
DEI. Sorry, DCCBA.
DCCBA provides a scholarship.
Yeah.
And the town has provided grant money to the organization to help support their work.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So we're kind of
We're covered. Okay.
funding. Yeah, we're kind of funding through the back door on that one. So
Okay, that's good.
okay. All right. Okay. We're kind of already skirting into what's going on with number 5.3, which is a 2025 work plan. And also, we've also had a conversation about 5.4 about small town big ideas, and maybe starting to partner with them. Can we get some thoughts on what our work plan is for 2025? Do we have a framework for that? Or is that something we can have a conversation about?
Yeah, I think
we've already added Canada Day.
Yeah, Canada Day, Indigenous.
And we've added the engagement with upcoming educational and forum opportunities, which is kind of a 2025 thing. This all kind of encompasses all of this.
Could I say something?
You certainly can.
I thought that I have, if we could have someone here as a guest for us, the DEI, to educate us on like policy writing or how policies are done when other marginalized communities are not represented at the table where decisions are made for the town. So it's just to educate us and getting somebody professional to come and speak to us concerning that, how it can be done.
Okay. I know the county does some of that. They do have guest speakers come from time to time to have that conversation. I don't know if we need to reach out to them or if that's something we need. I mean, maybe DCCBA can also give us a list of people to approach. Okay, if that's what we need to do. Anyone else?
I thought we can get that from our councillors.
I'm sorry, Francis?
I thought we could get that information from our councillors.
Okay, or staff, maybe? I don't want to throw
our councillors, the councillors we vote for.
Ah.
Yeah, our councillors should be able to tell us all that information. Why should we get someone else?
No, but councillors don't necessarily have that background of policy writing and making sure inclusion of marginalized group are present at the decision-making table. Because for me, representation matters and lived experiences matters. So it's nice to know that councillors are open-minded and they have inclusion in their minds. But when you don't see yourself there, you don't have any lived experiences there at the table. So that's why I'm thinking, get somebody with that is professional, that can speak adequately to this topic.
I do think that staff has a pretty robust kind of policy on that in terms of our diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. I mean, do we get someone from staff to come sit and have a chat with us as well? I mean, I'm going to throw this over to Denise because.
So I need more clarity on who, like if you could give me an example, Dulis, of who you would want to have speak to the DEI committee. And when you say at the table, do you mean as an elected representative of council? Because AMO is doing a lot of work on the Democracy Project, to expand within communities across Ontario, that people of all different backgrounds and lived experiences, to use your word, consider running for elected office. Is that what you're speaking about?
Not necessarily because that's an election, but I think following up from our conversation last meeting, um, I mean, when you're making decisions, and just permit me to go back and speak about the ancestral acknowledgements for Blacks. When I brought that forward, and it came to the table, I guess to council, I'm not sure how far it went, but if persons that are not there that have lived experiences of most things, you will not get any place when certain persons bring it forward, and that's natural. That's nothing. You don't have the lived experience, so you can't really speak to it or act towards it in a way that the other person who have lived experience can. And so what I'm thinking, if you're saying that you have somebody in the organization that has policies, that skill of making sure, the lens of looking and making sure that representation at senior management and it flows down is represented, for the marginalized community that is represented right here in Shelburne, then you can bring that person and then, have some sort of discussion with us. So it's not necessarily somebody, if you have that person already there, then that's nice. And I'd like to, that person to come and speak with us.
Would that be an HR? No? Okay.
I'll have to give this some more thought.
Okay, thanks.
It's staff. I'm sorry. I'm not understanding.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I don't
Okay,
understand
sorry.
what's going on.
Yeah, so
Can we just get a little
I'm not sure what you mean, Duluth. I'm thinking, are you specifically looking at the members of our staff team and wanting somebody to speak that's of a certain like, can you explain what you mean a little bit better? And I apologize. I'm not understanding. What I can provide to you is some of the background on the work that we do in terms of recruitment, on our census data information from our staff team and who we are, the approximately 50. But maybe you could just provide us with or me in particular, to help. If I don't believe this would be a staff responsibility, we may have to bring in a special speaker, whether they're from the CCDI organization, which are subject matter experts on policy and specifically.
Yeah. This is coming from our conversation and my discussion, what I tabled last meeting. So because I'm saying there is, the pushback that I got was that the town can't employ somebody to have that lens to look at. Okay, sorry, let me go back a little bit. Permit me to go back a little bit. DEI work is hard work. And if we can't look at ourselves and see if something is lacking, and if somebody is bringing it to us and we cannot look at it objectively and see, yes, maybe we can improve here or what we can do to change things, then the DEI then become a checkbox. So what I'm saying is that when I brought it up last week, that's what I mean. I got a little bit of a pushback there. And I'm saying if we get somebody, could be from the outside, you've referred to another organization, I'm not sure who they are, DCC?
Town is a member of the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion,
Okay.
which is a national organization that many employers participate with, and they run significant educational opportunities. They provide consulting. They do a lot of engagement with a range of different employers, including government.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, so someone that has that background, that person should be able to speak to us concerning the issues that I had brought up the last meeting. And because I am sort of, I mean, I wasn't satisfied with the answers that I got, obviously. So
Well,
that's
we
what
are,
I'm thinking. If we get somebody, they probably will be able to clarify it and just help me understand what is it that, why we can't have representation of marginalized communities at the upper senior management in the town.
okay, so that is under new business, which is 6.1. So I just want us to, we're starting to kind of bleed some lines here. So we're currently on Small Towns, Big Ideas, and we've gone through, a work plan, and we can certainly add that, what you've addressed, or what we're going to address in 6.1, Doulis, into that. I mean, it's a bigger picture, I think, than just that one issue.
So, sorry, Len, I just need to loop back because,
Yep.
Doulis, can I just clarify when you say you're not satisfied with the answers and that you want to see representation in the upper senior management in the town? I just want to clarify that you recognize that there are 4 members of senior management in the town of Shelburne. Is that the 4 specific positions you are making comments about? Sorry, you're
Doulis, you're
muted.
muted.
Sorry. When I'd asked about representation at the senior management level, I was told that you have persons with disabilities and women at the senior level or in the town. So I am saying that is good. That's part of DEI, and that's great. But I need to see marginalized persons also at the table, and I'm not sure if it's 4. So what I'm saying, if you get a policymaker that knows how to maneuver and to look at the whole picture and say, yes, representation maybe matters here because who is here represented? Who here looks like somebody different than the whites that are in Shelburne?
Okay, so I think that if we share a high level of our staff census, and again, we have less than 50 full-time staff, and it provides a snapshot of who the staff is and how that correlates with the last census for Shelburne, including the demographics, there may be some alignment that you'll see in terms of those numbers. So that at least is something I think is a starting point. But again, there are 4 members of the senior management team, of which I am one.
Okay. Does that kind of answer everybody's concerns in that regard? All right. Okay. Let's move along then to number 6 under new business, request to review implementation of the African ancestral acknowledgement. And I just wanted to get some feedback from everybody in terms of the how, when, where. The town has kind of looked at a couple. There's one from the City of Toronto and there's one from the Tamarack Institute. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to look those over. They were kind of included in the agenda package.
I did read up on the City of Toronto's, and it is mentions there that it has to be separate from the one we use for the Indigenous community. And it also mentions the fact that it needs to reach out to the community as well and get back feedback and comment from them because different parts of different communities have different ideas on the acknowledgement, is what I understood when I read it.
Okay.
When we went to Orangeville, they said it. They had one.
Yes, the county did do one.
County, yes.
And that was in conjunction with and in the context of the speaker that they had there that evening. Okay, and it was topic relative as well. The next speaking engagement they had 2 weeks later was an Indigenous speaker, and that acknowledgement was not read at that other event. Okay, so I think we really need to be a little bit focused on the context and content of whatever the event is. I mean, certainly this is something we can present as both a printed and spoken acknowledgement during Black History Month. I mean, that's a because again, it's context and content relative.
That's okay. I didn't even bring that up last meeting, really. I didn't bring that one up in the sense. What I brought up was what I just said earlier. So I didn't, but that wasn't captured in the minutes. This is what captured in the minutes, but I did not bring that up really last week. I probably in passing, I said I did ask about it, but that wasn't really an issue for me. The issue was, is representation. And that will always be an issue for me.
Okay.
Because representation matters.
Okay.
I agree with you, Len. I would like to hear it read out during Black History Month, separate from the Indigenous.
Indigenous, yeah. And looking at the Toronto, I think what they were getting at there is that they were not to combine the Indigenous with the Black History Month as one broad sweeping acknowledgement, and they wanted two separate specific acknowledgements. And I think that was the context of the one in Toronto. The Tamarack one,
it was
again
similar to the one of Toronto's when I read it. But again, it's separate from, it's on its own.
The one from Toronto, actually, it stemmed from the Black History, Black History Month, but the Confronting Anti-Black Racism. So every meeting that we have, we must acknowledge that. We must read those two acknowledgements out. For the Indigenous, and it depends upon where you are in the city, you read that one. So, and the one by the UN, we read that one, whether you're Black or you're white, they have the different wording. And I'm sure if you have looked at it, you would have seen that they have different wording. I don't know if Peel does it as well, but it's not a big issue for me right now. Honestly, it isn't. If you don't want to recognize, you only want to do it on Black History Month at that time, then that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with thoughts on this? Deputy Mayor Hall.
Yeah, I think beyond just Black History Month and looking at the examples, and I know when you look at the city of Toronto, they tell you it's voluntary, et cetera, but I believe, again, it's not to be done as one constant where you're looking at the land acknowledgement and this at the exact same wording. And in fact, I think if my reading is correct, in Toronto, they actually have two different people that do it. They try to bring it up. So, beyond, us looking at Black History Month and, perhaps pushing that towards council for that time frame, I think it's certainly probably is appropriate that as part of our DEI meeting start, it is most relevant to be read here as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Shane.
Other thoughts? Mandeep? Francis?
I agree with Shane. I think that's a good start there.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other, while we're on this topic, are there any other acknowledgements that we want to recognize at the start of our DEI meetings? I mean, do we want to acknowledge, the Muslim community? Do they have an acknowledgement? Are there other, acknowledgements that we're lacking in at the start of our meeting? Yeah, Shane.
Again, I'm not intending to marginalize anyone here, but all of the research that I've done, it really comes down to the land acknowledgement with Indigenous and then the African ancestral. I don't really know that, maybe as a group we can take away and see if there's something beyond, but I think really at this point, the two most prominent that we have really come down to those two.
Okay, thank you.
And if we can just remember as well, it's not the city of Toronto that initiated this, it was the UN. So it's higher and bigger than the city of Toronto.
Well, I'd also now they're doing that at every event, or is it specific to DEI meetings? I need some clarification there.
Every meeting that we have, we say both acknowledgement. If it's a white person that is reading, or non-black, I should say, because anybody can read it. A non-black can read it, and there is a different version for the non-blacks, and there is a version for the blacks. So anybody can read it, and we read at every meeting. Health and safety meetings, DEI meetings, our team meetings, every meeting that we have, we read it.
Okay. Well, again, Toronto is I mean, how many employees does Toronto have on their staff? I mean, I want to just make a point that just because, is this something that Orangeville is doing? Is this something that the other municipalities are doing in the county? Is the county doing this as well? I guess is a question that we need to maybe look at as well. Not to diminish your point, Dulis, and Shane. I think if we want to read that acknowledgement at this meeting moving forward, then that's something we can certainly look at. But I'm wondering how much of this is happening elsewhere in the county. I mean, it seemed like it was like, do they do this at the county meetings?
We don't always follow the county. We lead them sometimes.
No. I understand that, but is this what does the county do at their county council?
So the county does not do this, and as Walter's talking about, I don't think that we necessarily need to follow the county. And when I dove into this, it's as Duluth brought up, it's not necessarily a county or a council level meeting that this is taking place at, right? Okay. This is their general meetings, and it's like when you go through that document, they're talking about you're offering those acknowledgements at the opening of meetings, and especially showing respect to your staff members that are working with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been, since the agenda came out and going through this and trying to educate oneself on it, I understand, county versus or council meetings versus, in this case, many cases, this community or staff meetings. Mm-hmm. But I certainly can see the importance that it really creates. So, I think that's why we can certainly look at where it's most appropriate for us at this point. And, that's why I suggest, even the small step, we already acknowledge that maybe the best time is, looking at council doing this during, the month of February for, those meetings. But, us doing it at the beginning of this meeting certainly makes sense to me.
Yeah. Now, I know the joint accessibility meeting, they did just the Indigenous land acknowledgement. I was there last month for that one. It would be interesting. Is there, just out of curiosity, there's a joint DEI meeting at some point in time, is there not?
Well, I can certainly talk to Rohan about this, who, is responsible at the county level.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Like I know they did
on what it is.
Yeah. Well, okay. Do we need to have further conversation on this at this time, or do we need to come back with some more information? I think at this point in time, it would be maybe see if we get a little more research into it. And Denise, yeah.
So what we could do is adapt the City of Toronto's for use so that the next DEI meeting, which if it is December or if not, it'll be January, both acknowledgements are read. And then you can determine whether the chair reads both or it's actually shared amongst you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I certainly would, as a group, I would put a motion forward that we proceed with reading it out at the next DEI meeting, and that in an ideal state, the chair is doing the land acknowledgement, and the vice chair would be doing the African ancestral acknowledgement. That way, it gives us the two. And I get if one of them is not there, then it'll go to somebody else within the group. But, as an ideal state, I would think that chair reads the land acknowledgement, and then the secondary would do the African ancestral acknowledgement.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to adopt for our DEI meetings the ancestral acknowledgement adapted from the City of Toronto. The staff will look after a discussion on that. Any further discussion on that? Okay, let's call for a vote. Those in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. All right. Any other things that we need to discuss at this point in time? If not, then I'm going to bring forth a motion to adjourn. And can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Stella's moving. Francis is seconding. All in favor for adjourn. Carried. So everybody have a great evening. Thank you for your input. And we'll most certainly meet either December or in January. Okay?
Good night.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night.